Hello and good evening and welcome along to the instant match review of Leeds United 2, Watford 1. I'm Stephen Brown and joining me as ever is Jason Booker. Well, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. A fast start for Leeds United. I think everybody thought it was going to be a cakewalk from then on in, but it wasn't. It was a bit of a grinder by the end. I personally am just relieved we've got over the line with this one, Jason. We really did think it was going to be a big score line for Leeds, really, that after that opening 10 minutes, but it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, I mean, it probably should have been. We obviously came out and with a bit of a gift from Batman. I mean, he threw one in, really, didn't he? Like he had a bit of a melee of his own in that first 10 minutes. Threw one in and then made a bit of a hash of the cross from Lonto, and Aronson's there to mop it up. And then at that point, you kind of think, well, we have opportunity to kind of take them to Saudi. And unfortunately, the Ramazani injury came at a bit of a bad time for us, where it kind of gave them 2 minutes to kind of just get their heads around what had gone on and then slow it down. But even saying that, we still created so many chances. Nonto could have had an hat-trick on his own. Pirro had a couple of half chances. Aronson had a couple of half chances. Like there were moments in and around the box where you just think it just falls, or we show a bit more of a clinical edge, and we go on and we score that third and fourth probably. And then the way that we start the second half doesn't even matter. I mean, likely Watford have got nothing left in their balloon at that point. They're probably completely deflated. But at 2-0, the teams always stand a chance. You get the next goal, edges, people start getting edgy, the crowd start getting edgy, and that's the way that they kind of came out in that second half, because we allowed them that kind of opportunity, really, with it only being 2-0. So, yeah, there was quite a lot. Well, there was still a lot to like. I thought fluidly, we looked really good again for large parts. Tanaka and Rothwell first half, and then Tanaka over the whole game. My word, what a player he is! He's literally just everywhere. He was doing the job of the whole back line and the midfield for large parts of that second half. It was unbelievable. The couple of edgy moments defensively, especially the left side of the defence through large parts of the early part of the second half, just lack of concentration, switching off. But then they showed real resilience to get themselves back on it. Bodies were getting put on the line. Pascal flew up for one against Pollock later on and took a right whack. And that's what it's about when it is kind of not maybe going for you in quite the same way that it was earlier on in the game. You just grit your teeth and get over the line. And that's what they did tonight. Some championship performances are going to kind of descend into that. And that's what it did. And I do think Watford are a decent side. I think we kind of hit them with a bit of a sucker punch early, but I do think they're going to be in and around the top six, the edge of the top six to 10th kind of.
I mean, it's land of the giants, isn't it, with them?
Physicality.
Every player is absolutely massive. And when they start running at you, I mean, they were breezing through us at times in that opening to the second half, and we couldn't really get on top again. Like you say, Tanaka was really doing about four people's jobs. I mean, he was cleaning up in situations where he had like 3 or 4 Watford players around him, and he was getting away from it. And you just thought, how lucky we're to have him there, because otherwise we'd have been banging trouble in those moments. Absolutely super.
Yeah, I agree completely. I can see a bit of back and forward in the comments already. I got to say, I'm actually going to agree with Lee in that I think Watford were the best side we've seen at Ellen Road this season. I think Norwich and Sunderland were both better in terms of the performances that they showed away from home. But I think at Ellen Road, I think they were actually, because of the physicality of the team, because of the way that they were able to kind of dictate certain phases of the game, they had a lot to offer. They had some really, really good players. The lad up front caused Struijk absolute nightmares at time in that second half. They were bullying him. And Festi Elbaselli down the right-hand side, the right back, and I forget the lad that was in front of him. They were causing real issues down that side. There's a lot to like from a Watford's perspective. Away from home, they're really struggling, but at home, they're one of the most formed teams in the division. They started the season really, really well, and they recruited really, really well in the summer as well. So there's a bit to like there with them. I definitely think that was the best or some of the best football that we've seen from an away side this season. You consider the fact that we've seen Sheffield United at Ellen Road and Burnley at Ellen Road. Burnley didn't offer very much by the odd counter-attack and some defensive resilience, but going forward, they didn't really show anything for large parts. Yeah, I was...
I think you've got to remember as well is that they only had, well, they didn't have any shots on goal, did they, after their goal, or they had one or something, so it wasn't maybe quite as threatening as it kind of looked as well. I want to thank everyone for getting the comments in as well. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. This is one comment here that I want to bring up. This is from Johnny. Cheers, mate. Did you enjoy Sky TV's Watford Fan TV commentary? And this is exactly how I felt about it. I mean, I was gobsmacked at some of the comments. I mean, there was one point where he said Leeds haven't played well tonight, and this was like quite early on in the second half. Bear in mind, we've just absolutely dominated the first half, winning 2-0, and could have quite easily scored 5. I mean, it was kind of bizarre. And it's following on from the weekend's game where there was this, Friday night's game where there seemed to be trying to build this narrative of, Leeds under pressure, under the cosh, not quite at it, kind of. And you're just watching that going, this is ridiculous. This is. I don't know if it's because we're the favourites going into most games and it's the underdog mentality and people want to back the underdog, but it's just getting a bit silly now.
It feels to me like it's in the briefing. Like, Lee Ender's got no axe to grind with Leeds United. He's a Brummie lad, played a large of his career at Villa. Yeah, he did play for Bradford, but he's not. He's not he's got no affiliation with Leeds like a Don Goodman has, or even Andy Hinchcliffe to a point. Being from in and around the area. Just a bizarre takes from time to time, and like I said, the elements of disappointment that you clearly hear in the voice.
You can feel it, can't you? Like, Leeds have scored.
And excitement when Watford score in comparison to when Leeds got. It's just really bizarre. They did it on Friday night. Sheffield United were building up ahead of steam from one attack. Like they had one attack and they got the ball towards the lead box. That's what he said, wasn't it? They dominated the last 10 minutes. No, they didn't. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre take, but I can only think that it's to kind of fuel this social media engagement, talk, chit chat about it, and maybe we're giving it the airtime that we shouldn't. That's exactly probably what they want. So, but it is an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning then. It was the same team from Friday night, Jason, pretty much kind of what we expected. I think both me and you had said maybe a couple of positions he could have freshened it up, but he's gone again with the same team. Can't really argue with that, obviously, after a fantastic performance against Sheffield United. Was it pretty much what you expected, or would you have liked to have seen maybe a couple of other players getting in, bit of rotation maybe?
No, if I'm honest, no. I think we played Friday, they played Saturday. Bar the internationals, we've not had a huge run of games. We had more rest than they did. 2 games both at home. I think you play your best side, and I think right now the best side that we have is the one that we saw. So no problems from me, and we kind of carried on in the same vein that we showed on Friday night in the first half, especially. I think you can see the difference in the control that Gruev and Ampadu gives us in comparison to Rothwell and Tanaka in the second half. You can see a little bit of that where defensively we don't have quite the same structure and rigidity that we might have, but then also we don't have the fluidity that we have for the rest of the game that them two bring us when Gruev and Ampadu are in possession of the ball. The moment where Tanaka turned out of 3 or 4 players in that second half completely relieved us of his pressure and whipped one into the channel for Nonto. I don't think any of the other midfielders have that capability. Probably other than Rothwell. I think Rothwell's the only other one that does. Gruev certainly doesn't. No. And that can actually be the best form of defence sometimes when you're under pressure, is being able to relieve that in that way. So, I got no problems. We are now going to have an enforced change for the next game with Firpo getting a mindless yellow card again, and Ramazani potentially being out. I don't think Ramazani's will be long term. Looking at it, it looks more like a knock, but it might be 1 or 2. Who knows? But we'll see. But I weren't surprised, and I wouldn't have changed anything myself, including Pirot. I know Pirot didn't have the greatest game today. I think his demeanour sometimes kind of supersedes him. I think he looks like he's been lethargic a lot of the time. And then when he takes a dodgy touch and it's a bit bumbling, it can look awkward. But a lot of the time, he still is doing some effective work. So
yeah, as Gavin says here, Pirro looking lethargic again, and yeah, I know what you mean. He has that kind of languid style about him, doesn't he? I mean, I did find it incredibly frustrating his finishing tonight, though, because
he was snatching one.
That is what you're in the team for. You had
Yeah.
a couple of really good opportunities, and it was frustrating, but the finishing just wasn't there, was it? After the opening 10 minutes, we just could not put the ball in the back of the net again. We had glorious opportunities, and we missed it every time.
You're absolutely spot on, because you can put up with everything else that he maybe doesn't do right. If in that moment, when it falls to him, like it did in the second half, when Nonto shanks it, it falls to Pirro, he puts it in the back of the net. And normally he does. Like, again, we've said it time and time again, you won't want anybody else to be in that position other than Pirro. You'd want him to be there. But when he is there today, he shanks it, and it's an easy save for the keeper, and the game should be dead and buried. So, like I say, you can kind of ignore and put up with the times where the link-up play isn't quite the best, because then it falls for him and he puts it in the back of the net. And he didn't do that tonight. So, yeah, there's a question to be answered there. But I would still keep him in.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lee. Yeah, I agree with this, Lee. Willie Nonto's pass in the second half, particularly the second half. Willie Nonto passing. I mean, he just could not find his man at all. It was really frustrating. Was that
he was absolutely cooking in the first half, though. I mean, he had the defense on toast at times. Again, it's just that clinical edge. He just needs to find that real clinical edge. But again, if he had that, he'd be in the Premier League already. And that's why he's not in the Premier League, and Chris Somerville is. Because Chris Somerville was a killer in front of goal last season, and Nonto hasn't been in his whole time at Leeds United yet. Hopefully he can find that, because that's all he is away. You know, the chance that just grazed the post, Somerville's scoring it. Yeah. You know, the chance that he puts at Batman's near post, again in the first half, Somerville probably scores it. You know, that is the difference for Nonto at the moment. But again, like I said, then he would have been in the Premier League already if he'd have been showing that. So we've got to find that.
Do you think? I felt like, I think you made a good point earlier about Ramazani, and I think when he came off, it kind of disrupted our flow maybe a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I like to have a quick winger and then maybe the tricky, nippy winger together. I don't think it works as well. Solomon and Nonto, or where it's kind of too intricate, kind of twisty turny. I would have preferred maybe James to have come on at that point actually for Ramazani, just to kind of keep that kind of pace up.
Solomon and Nonto are very similar. In terms of the way that they position the bodies, the way that they behave on both sides, they're very, very similar. Solomon's lost a yard of pace since all of his injuries. He used to be a bit quicker, and he's not got that blistering pace to take himself away, especially over long distances. Over 5 yards is pretty nippy, but over long distances is not. And neither is Nonto. Nonto's not really, really quick. He's not rapid like James or Ramazani is. So I agree with you. I wasn't surprised to see that change happen. I do think Dan James is much better on the right. And I think it seems to me as if it's either Solomon and Ramazani on the left and Nonto and James on the right. I'm not really fully buying into that. I actually think Nonto's best on the left.
I do.
But for whatever reason, Daniel Farker sees it the way that it does. And I do think that Nonto's starting to grow into being far more effective on that right-hand side. He's starting to find ways of being able to come centrally and then go right, rather than start right and come central. Because when he does that, I think he struggles a bit. We saw him score a couple of goals off his left foot, but that's not really his game. He's better when he starts a bit more centrally from the right-hand side and then drifts towards the right. And as Bogle's become more of a threat, he's getting more space in and around them half areas in there. Aronson's doing a lot of good work. I thought Aronson was brilliant first half. I thought he went missing a bit second half offensively, but he still put so much work in. I mean, the amount of legwork that lad gets through is just ridiculous. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I think Nonto, it is a bit of a weird balance, that kind of gives us. Be interesting to see if Ramazani is out, what he does. I think he'd go for Solomon. I think he'd put Solomon straight in there, but I do think it would make us less effective if we had both Solomon and Nonto starting.
Especially if you're starting Pirro as well. You think, because at that top end, you've got three not very quick players. It changes that dynamic, doesn't it? So, I think so. With kind of Ramazani, I mean, I hope it's nothing too serious, because I think he's just been so effective. I mean,
I
let's
don't
talk
know.
about his goal. I mean, he cuts inside and whacks the shot in. I mean, Bachmann, I mean, it's just one of those nights for him, isn't it, where it's just gone absolutely
Yeah.
horribly wrong. I mean, I don't know much about him. I mean, but is he kind of, has he got this in his locker? Is he kind of their number one choice generally? I mean, is this, because you felt for him. I mean, there was a bit where it cut to him probably about even maybe 15 minutes after the second error, and he still looked like he was cursing himself out. He still looked like
Yeah.
he was going, "You fucking idiot." You know what I mean? He was still looked like he was annoyed with himself. And I thought, man, it's like a Rachubka moment all over again.
Oh God. I mean, I've always thought of him as quite a reliable keeper, mate. To be honest, he's been their number one since Ben Foster left, I believe, which has been a number of years now, hasn't it? I mean, maybe 6 years, something like that. I think he were a Premier League keep. I think he were with him in the Premier League, maybe as Ben Foster's number 2. But yeah, he's been around a long time, and I've always thought of him as quite a reliable keeper. But this comes in the territory of the conversations we've been having around Meslier. The facts is that when a keeper makes a mistake, it ends up like that. Especially the first one, that you can't make a mistake. Whereas Joe Rothwell, we said, had a great first half, but Joe Rothwell misplaced a pass in the first half, and nobody talks about it because he's having such a good half, and there's plenty of players around him that can make up for that mistake. Whereas the keeper, you don't have that luxury, unfortunately. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but I'm just glad that we're on the right side of it tonight, because again, we've so often been on the wrong side of them. That we deserve to win the game regardless of the way that we ended up scoring the goals. But fine, we take it tonight, and we take it with both hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I thought. Actually, I was like, it is so nice to get one of those and be on the right side of it. And I mean, when you make a fast start like that, I've kind of been crying out a little bit to kind of blitz a team like that from the start, because sometimes we are a little bit kind of slow, aren't we? I mean, we saw against kind of Sunderland, it was kind of edging his way into the game. Sheffield United edging his way into the game. Tonight we kind of started off so strongly, and then it kind of faded out. I just want to mention about Rothwell, actually, because again, I thought it was absolutely superb first half. I did feel like he faded second half, and he got us in trouble a couple of times as well. And I thought Tanaka, he needed to kind of come and just kind of really kind of mop that situation up, because I mean, Firpo, we know defensively. I mean, Strike for their goal as well. I mean, he's all at sea, isn't he? He gets beaten really, and he's so out of position then, and then it's just chaos. And I felt Tanaka actually was the only one you could kind of trust in that kind of back line, probably him and Joe Rodon. I mean, it's like Bogle even, who I thought actually was really good in terms of offensively. But I mean, when he went flying in for that tackle at the end and completely missed it, and it should have been an absolute, bet your house on it. So Tanaka really has kind of covered a few players there. I mean, in terms of Rothwell, I mean, like I say, I thought it was excellent first half. Did fade for me a little bit second half and got us into trouble a couple of times. What did you make of that kind of situation with him?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was excellent first half. First half, he was, again, just glorious to watch. And his reading of the game is just so good defensively and offensively. The second half, when it started to get a little bit rough and ready, it kind of went missing a little bit. And I was kind of dying for him to get his foot on the ball and just help us relieve some pressure in the way that Tanaka did. For the second game in a row, Tanaka takes man of the match award for me. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, Browney. And, for me, he was responsible for us getting through that sticky patch from them scoring to the 65th, 70th minute. We weren't really in control of the game, and he wrestled it back on his own. There was moments where he was just doing all of the defensive work. When we then did get possession, if ever it was any good, it came through him. He either were carrying the ball out of dangerous areas, or whipping the ball into an area which won as a throw-in, or whipping the ball into a channel for an attacker to run onto or get us out. And it was all Tanaka. Like I say, he was putting his body on the line. It was just everywhere. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And like I said, that left-hand side, because Rothwell tends to station himself more on the right side of the defence and Tanaka on the left. He had a lot of ground to get through, because there was a period in the game where Pascal and Junior were just all over the place. They were all over the place, mate. And I mean, I've got my question marks around Pascal Strike. I don't think he's a bad defender in the slightest. I think he's a good championship defender. I keep saying this, but people want to big him into this is the best championship
Yeah.
defender. It's just bull. It just doesn't exist. You know, if the best championship defender doesn't get beaten in the way that he did tonight, it just doesn't. He just breezed past him. But what I will say in Pascal's defence is that he has got probably one of the worst fullbacks alongside him defensively in Junior Firpo, who again is just a car crash at times. Again, I'm not hating on him. I absolutely love Junior Firpo's redemption arc. Like going forward, he's fantastic. Going forward, he's the best left back in the division. He's the best left back in the division. He's fantastic. His pass selection's great. His dribbling ability is good. He's quick. He's clever. The overlaps are good. All of that's great. But his defensive basics are just so poor at times. Yeah. You know, tonight when he got the yellow card, I mean, what is he doing? The way that he positions himself and stands. So then Pascal's having to come across and kind of do more work than he should have to. I'm not saying that fullbacks need to be the best defenders in the world now. They don't. You know, the game's moved on from when fullbacks defended like a Gary Kelly or a Gary Neville even. You know what I mean? It's moved on. That's why Trent doesn't have to do the work. But you have to be able to do the basics at times. And yeah, just at times Firpo just gets caught wanting.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny as well, doesn't it? It shows you the level of difference between the Premier League and the Championship, because if you dropped us in the Premier League now, I don't think there's any way on earth that you could have Struijk, Meslier and Firpo in your defence and expect to survive.
Or Bogle.
Or Bogle. I just don't think any of those are defensively resolute enough or anything what you need. You know, we've already seen with Meslier, Struijk and Firpo that they were terrible in the Premier League, you know. But like you say, for this level, it's, you know, it's different kettle of fish. And the thing with Struijk as well is kind of, you know, he's captain while Sampdoria comes out, and I think there's kind of an image of Struijk, kind of what we want him to be and what we thought he was going to be when he first broke through. He was fantastic in that kind of first, you know, run in the Premier League with Llorente, and I think people still kind of hold on to that a little bit. And you know, he is good in a lot of what he does, you know, and he can pass a ball and he is progressive. You know, you look at kind of how much, you know, he goes forward with the ball, etc. But I'm not in that camp that thinks he's the greatest centre back in the league, or, you know, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm just not, unfortunately.
He's just a good centre back.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're a good side in this division. We absolutely are. But you could drop many a centre back from this division into Pascal's position, and we wouldn't look worse off for it.
No.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's in and amongst a bunch of good Championship centre backs. I'd probably put him in the top 10. I probably would. Because again, we are still the best team in the division, so it stands to reason he's going to be in and around the conversation. But when you talk, I mean, I put Joe Rodon ahead of him, a fully working Joe Rodon. I think he's a better defender. I think Estevez, miles better than him at Burnley. I'm a Hod. I never can pronounce his name. I'm a Medovic at Sheffield United is a better centre back than him. There's a few others as well, you know. So like I just think it needs to be not bigged up. There's a lot that he does very nicely. I think his concentration levels are a bit whiffy. You know, today, 50 seconds in, 50p, he bounces it out for a throw-in when it should be going back up the other way. Like, yeah. But it don't get talked about because we spend so much of the game attacking. So it doesn't matter most of the time. His pass selection does my head in. But then he'll dink one over the top into Firpo, I think it was, after about 5 minutes.
And it's like,
and all the other ones get forgotten then, where he kind of put it onto, you know, Pirro's stretching toe rather than into his feet. And the pass column will say pass completed. So you'll get somebody that will come to you with a pass stat that says, well, he hit 70%. Look, like, no, watch the game, you know, like that's what does my head in. It's not that he's a bad player or a bad defender. No. He's not. It's just, just not what some make out him to be. But like I say, I am giving him a little bit of a defence because he does have Junior Firpo alongside him, who is so poor at the basic defence side of his game. But he's got better at that, but he's also not campaigning against Premier League winger, is he? Every week. So
no. On the more positive side, should we have a look at some stats? Speaking of stats for Tanaka, so obviously this is from LUFC data. So that, I mean, 93 pass accuracy, 78 touches, 12 ball recoveries, interceptions, everything you want really from a central midfield. I mean, I look at this guy and I'm like, feels to me like the complete central midfielder in a lot of ways, because he can go forward, he can go back. I mean, he did a lot of defensive work tonight, but has got a pass in him as well. Like you say, that ball that he launches forward. How vital is it going to be that we keep this guy fit? And I mean, there just doesn't really seem any replacement for him. And I think you're absolutely spot on what you said about Ampadu and Gruev. You could see that maybe that second half doesn't quite go like that. Certainly if an Ampadu especially is in there. But I mean, Tanaka, I mean, he's going to be so vital, isn't he? At least until Ampadu is back.
You're looking at 93% pass accuracy as well, and you could quite easily see that statistic from Gruev or Ampadu, but they'd be sideways or backwards. Tanaka's passes are so often forwards. They cut the line, so that makes that statistic even more impressive. And they very rarely end up with a turnover in possession. Like I was just making the point about Struijk, the pass sometimes lands, but then because the pass isn't as accurate as it should be, it'll bounce off the attacker and then turn over possession. Tanaka's actually take us forward. And that's what a proper progressive pass is. He's fantastic, mate. I mean, he's all-round game. He's the reading of the game, the way that he seamlessly just dropped into the back line, like Ampadu did as that 6. I think there's elements of it that he does better than Ampadu.
Yeah, I do.
Which is crazy. I still think Ampadu, once he's fully fit, comes straight back into this side, and I understand the benefits of that. I think he's probably our best player, but it cannot be at the expense of Tanaka. It needs to be the pair of them. Gruev, for all of his great work defensively, so limited with the ball at his feet and going forward. Tanaka just gives us so much more. And I love Rothwell as well. Like, I have been absolutely blown away with his level and what he's capable of. My God, is he a midfielder? Like, I love watching him play. But in terms of the overall balance of the team long term, when you've got all of your players fit, the best two is probably going to be, well, it's definitely going to be Tanaka and Ampadu. But yeah, he's sensational, mate. And like I said, for me, he was the one man responsible for us today. If you had to isolate one player for us getting that second half over the line, it was brilliant.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. What did you make of the crowd tonight? I mean, obviously, we weren't there, so you can't kind of report on it 100% accurately. But for me, it felt and sounded very flat. I don't know. I felt almost, especially second half, we could have maybe done with the crowd a little bit, kind of geeing us up a little bit, but it seemed very, very flat. I don't know if that's kind of like almost like reverse psychology, when you score 2 early goals and you have this kind of like, and then it's like the rest of the game kind of doesn't kind of live up to that opening 10 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed a bit flat for me.
No, I'd agree with you. I think there's so much tension and nerves around this season, and every game just feels almost a bit like a chore. And there's also a bit of a sense of entitlement where people are just expecting to come and beat a Watford and beat a Stoke or whoever else turns up, you know what I mean? And, Danny Farker made the point, it's very easy to get up for Sheffield United at home on a Friday night, but then they need that kind of same energy and desire towards every game, including Watford tonight. And, they did kind of pull us over the line a little bit, did the fans towards the end. They were behind the lads. But, yeah, I'd agree with you. I tend to agree, especially towards the back end of the first half. There were some real lulls in noise and atmosphere. And it is a bit of a worry. It is a bit of a worry, but there's no way that you can talk about making it better.
No.
I don't. The thing is it's not even down to the style of play, Browney. Because in the first half, we're playing great. And we're creating chance after chance after chance after chance. And some fans will be saying, "Oh, it's the style's boring." Well, it's not. Like it's just not.
If that's boring, you're watching the wrong sport.
You are. You're watching the wrong sport completely. I mean, like I said, first half, for most of the game, most of the first half, we were brilliant. We were fluidly brilliant. So yeah, nothing more the players or fans or manager, players or manager can do to entice the atmosphere. Really, it's down to the fans to kind of step that up really a bit.
Yeah, I agree. Nige makes a point here. Looks like a new left-hand side on Saturday. So Ramazani and Firpo. Well, we don't know about Ramazani actually. We'll wait and see, but probably not. So it could be a new left-hand side. That left-back position, I mean, is this the time for Schmidt to drop in now and see how he does? We've seen very, very little of him, but could be a huge opportunity. And you never know. We might stumble on something else that kind of is attractive as well, and might work out and challenge Junior to that left-back position.
It's a tricky one. I don't know if it's quite that simple. I mean, from what I heard, I don't know if this is true or not. I know Schmidt played on the left-hand side for St. Gallen, but I was led to believe that Schmidt was recruited as more of a out-and-out competition and replacement for Bogle, and Byron was more the direct replacement for Firpo. Now, I know when Schmidt's come on, he's tend to have come on more for a winger when we've been holding on to a result, and he hasn't actually played fullback. So it'll be really interesting. I don't think it'll be Schmidt. I think it'll be Byron. I think Byron will start. Now, that changes what potentially happens in front of him. Now, if Ramazan is fit, does he start? Maybe, because defensively he's actually very, very good. He can cover a lot of ground, can Ramazani. I don't think Solomon starts on that side regardless if Firpo's not there. I think if Ramazan is injured as well, I think you'll see Nonto go to the left and James will start on the right, which then will give us a bit of a different dynamic, and Nonto will probably give us more of the outlet that Solomon maybe can't on his own, because I think Solomon relies on an overlapping bomber.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To kind of create that space that he needs to cut in, whereas Nonto can do a little bit more on his own. So it'll be an interesting one. Be a real, but I think Byron starts. I don't think Schmidt starts.
Could it be interesting that as well? Because obviously we saw last year we had large number of games where Byron was in that left back position, and you just don't get any threat, do you, going forward? And a huge part of, I think, what's kind of helped us evolve to this new style is having those flying
100%.
backs, you know, and I think if you take that away, it does get a little bit trickier.
We're going to really miss Firpo. We are going to really miss Firpo going forward, which would make, certainly going forward, I would imagine that Schmidt would probably be a better option. But because he's not left-footed, and because I know that he trusts Byron so much, I can imagine that Byron will probably start there, and maybe we develop as the game goes on, depending on how the game's going. But we are going to lose a serious part of our arsenal going forward obviously Junior's definitely not going to be there when Firpo's not there.
Yeah. I mean, the other worry is, it's Rodon, isn't it, who's on 4 yellow cards at the minute, and Bogle, yeah. I mean, you wonder. I mean, if Rodon goes out, I mean, what do you do there at the minute? Actually, is it De Bayo? I mean, you're probably getting to De Bayo then, aren't you? Really, I can't think of any. There's nobody else, is there?
No, there's not. I don't think you can play anybody else there. No,
it doesn't happen.
Yeah, there really isn't another option unless Verba gets back fit. I mean, Verba can't be too far away from what we're reading. I think it was just before the next international break he was due back, I think. So he's maybe 2 games away or something like that. So it is important that they don't get a suspension, because I do think it'll be De Bayo. I think you got to trust the natural centre back, haven't you? You can't start making a makeshift.
Did you notice a couple? I don't know if I was there were a couple of times where Joe Rodon first half kind of went over the ball a bit in the tackle, and I was like, I wonder if if he's just thinking back of his head, like, oh, I'm on 4 yellows.
I didn't notice that.
There was just a couple of. He didn't do it again for the rest of the game, to be fair, but there was just a couple of times where he kind of went over the ball and didn't win it cleanly. I was like, is he holding himself back a little bit? Yeah. Maybe, because Farkas said, "Don't you dare get a yellow card."
It'll definitely be on their minds, mate. It's never on Junior Firpo's mind, because Junior Firpo's always going to get a yellow card. But
it should have had half of them, should he, Joe Rodon? By the way, do you remember I pulled up there was a graphic in the WhatsApp group the other day where it was like
4 yellows from 8 tackles.
Yeah,
from 8 fouls. Sorry, 4 yellows from 8 fouls. That's what it was.
Compared to the next in the list is like 20 fouls or something. Yeah, ridiculous. We're getting some post-match comments in from Farkas now. Adam Pope's been chatting with him. Daniel Farkas says Tanaka was outstanding tonight. He saved the world. Revealed that the players refer to him as Tiger Tanaka, with reference to the character in the Bond films. However, Farkas says tonight he was not Tiger. He was James Bond.
He was excellent, mate. I mean, I said to you how excited I was when we signed him. I know you didn't know a lot about him. I only know a little bit about him because I'm a nerd. Same as Chris. Chris will tell you about Tanaka before from Football Manager, and then just watching like endless amount of footage on different players. The guy's a beast, and how we've managed to pull him off just not even just the fee, but into the Championship. I don't get it. I mean, for me, why Ipswich, Southampton, and a bunch of other bottom end Premier League teams weren't all over it for 3.5 million. It's not even a risk. It's not even a risk at 3.5 million. You know, like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that he's playing in this division.
This is why I really want us to go up this season, because I'm excited about what our recruitment team would find us in the Premier League. Can you imagine if they're able to kind of maintain this success rate in the Premier League? Laughing. I mean, it's funny because I was watching a bit of Ipswich content over the weekend, because I'm kind of mildly curious following the Ipswich story, because obviously they really rubbed it in that they got ahead of Leeds and got promoted, but they haven't won a game yet. And it was interesting seeing what people were saying about Calvin Phillips. And I think you bang on. You look at like an Ipswich and go, they've gone for someone like Calvin Phillips, who, again, it doesn't seem to be going great. Again, he had a couple of good games, and then it seems to be kind of going downhill again. Then you look at Tanaka, who's younger and just seems to have every attribute. I mean, I wouldn't swap Tanaka for Calvin Phillips now.
I wouldn't either. Not now. Really not with the way that Calvin's story's gone, his injuries and all the rest of it. Absolutely not, mate. I mean, like I say, he's an absolute step up. And again, the recruitment, obviously was there last summer. They wanted him. He got injured just before we signed Kamara, who had a great season as well. Like, if you're just analysing it on what he is and what, there's very different players. We've gone back and we've got him. And, I mean, what a player he is. And the same goes for all of the recruitment this summer. I've seen Solomon getting a lot of flack tonight. And I don't get it. Like, it's like people just need him to be a 10 out of 10 with everything that he does every single time. Now, look, did he have a great game? No, he didn't. But there were still flashes and moments of what he can do. And you have to bear in mind how much time he's had out injured. Before then coming in and obviously influencing the game in the way that he did against Hull. We won that game because of Mano Solomon's cross. We then, he gets a knock and he comes back. He's building his way back into full fitness. He didn't expect him, and Danny Farker didn't expect him to have to play that amount of game time today, but he did. And I just think people are being, again, it just depends on what people want to see and what people want to kind of happen in these eventualities. We see a Mano Solomon, Tottenham player on loan, big wages, and just think he needs to now be an elite 10 out of 10 every single game, without providing any context to the situation whatsoever. Whereas Tanaka, expectations were so low, minimal fee, coming from the Bundesliga 2. Nobody had heard of him, and because of all that, and then with the performances, we can enjoy every performance so much more. It's just a bizarre one where players sit sometimes.
I agree with that, because I feel like there's been a little bit of a cynical edge around Solomon.
People didn't want him to be successful from the second that he walked through the door, mate.
It's bizarre because when a lot of people in the build up to the game against Portsmouth, he won't start. He's not going to be a starter. He's not a starter. And then he started and he was fantastic.
And people are wanting him to be proved. They want him to be bad to prove that they were right. That's what it feels like. Yeah, I agree with you completely.
And obviously Ramazani's come in, and Ramazan is the sexy signing, isn't he? He's fast, he's quick, he's this, and all that kind of thing. But I find it bizarre. I just think it's fantastic that we've got someone of his level that's able to come in and do it. I don't necessarily think it's like I said earlier, I would have preferred to have seen Dan James come on for that kind of quickness and trickiness from
He was very good when he came on, by the way.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, that pass that he did. Who did he do the pass for Bogle, was it?
No, it was to Mateo Joseph, wasn't it? For the header.
Well, there was that one, but there was another one where he slid a pass through as well, and it was like, there was James. Look at this guy. But I mean, he's just sharp and ready, isn't he? I mean, he's of that age and experience now. Is Dan James, where he just looks ready, doesn't he? He's just going to be on it, isn't he?
I've got to be honest with you, mate.
I won't be against him starting next game.
I'll be honest with you. I think he's the first name on the team sheet from the wingers. Like, I know a lot of people won't agree with that, and I know he's not the technically the best out of the four. I know he's not, but at this level, he's the most effective. I've said it for over a year now, pretty much since dropping down in the Championship. Under Daniel Farke especially, he's brought him on. And injuries aside, I think Dan James starts every single game for Daniel Farke. I think he absolutely loves what he brings. And again, we saw it today, like the difference that he makes and his delivery. His final products has got better. It's got a lot better. Today, I mean, he could have had 3 assists when he came on.
Yeah.
He could have had a goal. He probably should have done a little bit better with that. Mateo Joseph were going ballistic with him. He should have probably been putting it back across goal and then it comes off a defender or Joseph taps it in or he scores himself instead he goes near post. But that aside, Dan James is fantastic on that right-hand side. And then I think it's down to the rest to fight it out for the left-hand side. I'm not against people saying that Solomon shouldn't start. I just think my point has always been a fully fit Manor Solomon is the best player in this team. Now, the question will always be around Manor Solomon is will he ever be fully fit to the way that he was before? We don't know that. And that's why we've even got him in the first place, because he's not a Championship player. So, whoever starts on the other side and whoever starts centrally, it's fine. But I'd be starting Dan James if he's fully fit out on that right-hand side every single week at this level. And I'd also be starting Brendan Aronson alongside him in the 10. And I'd be saying to the rest of them, look, you have a battle out for that left-hand side position. Or take your opportunities if Dan James gets an injury. Because a player like Dan James is always going to get an injury. He's so highly strung. He's pace. He's so, on the edge of kind of twanging something all the time. And he gets whacked so often. He's going to take knocks. So there's going to be opportunities in there for the others to start.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Because the thing with James, and I mean, he even saw it in the playoff final, he came and did something. He created something. And he's got a completely different mindset to like what Somerville, Rutter, and Nonto were doing last year. He was the one that kind of was a completely different type of player, but so effective, like you're saying, direct, and you get assists and you get goals. I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and I would like to have seen him in. I think probably for me, I still would like the kind of quick player and the tricky player. So I would probably still have Ramazani and Nonto. That would probably be my starting kind of wingers at the moment. And I do like James off the bench as well. I think he's really good off the bench, James. You always get moments off the bench as well, which is always good. I mean, we took the game away from Watford, didn't we, with the sub? It changed, didn't it? Again, we kind of had that rocky period, and then we're able to bring this quality on and wrestle it back again, aren't we, really?
It felt like we were getting the third, didn't it?
Yeah.
When it was 2-1, it felt like when they came on, the third was coming again. Yeah. And I get that. And, when James comes on fully fresh and they're 70 minutes into the game, it's almost unfair. Like, you're going to absolutely take them to the cleaners. And, players have roles to play within a squad, don't they? And, a couple of players over years have made careers out of being super subs. Mikel Forsell, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think, because 2 of them, they did it. Torre Andre Flo did it for Chelsea as well. They'd come on and they'd get defenders when they were a little bit more tired. And Dan James has got the perfect skill set to be able to do that. And so if that's the role that he plays, then fine. And I Nonto and Ramazani are an absolute fantastic out-and-out wingers, aren't they? But I do think Ramazani and James can do a job together as well. Because Ramazani's got that in his locker too. I think Ramazani's got the capability of being the best of the lot. I think his ceiling is so high. Because he's so strong going on the weak foot as well. He's so different to all the other ones. He's going to be so interesting, so fun to watch. I hope he's back for the weekend. I really do, because you get excited every time you see him, don't you?
Yeah.
Every time he gets on the ball, you're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick mention for Aronson as well. Obviously, we touched on him earlier, but I mean, God, when he saw Solomon getting subbed off, I kind of felt sorry for him a little bit, because he obviously gives so much to that press. And I was just watching him at the end of the game, and the space he closes down and the pressure he's still putting on it. I thought on the ball he was good tonight as well. I know he kind of wasn't really in the game in that second half, but a lot of them weren't. But I mean, the work that he gets through and the dynamic he gives the team, I mean, it's vital, really. I agree with you. For me, Aronson's, he's nailed down that position now, I think.
It's so underrated, Brownie. And again, it's something that fans just don't, I think, really appreciate enough. When when Brendan closes with the intensity that he does, the centre back that's making a pass or the goalkeeper that's making a clearance or whatever, the trajectory of the ball with and without his press could be just, I don't know, 20 degrees difference. Yeah, in terms of the accuracy of where it goes. And that can make the differences in us turning possession back over into us, or us actually then having to defend from in our own half. Now, fans don't see all that. They just think that ball's been cleared, we've won the ball back. They don't look at what Brendan's done. It's the same as what Pat used to do. When Pat used to be really good at the effective press, and that's why Bielsa loved him so much, it makes a difference for the defensive side of your job. Even though he's an attacker, and he's there to score and assist goals and create chances, he defends from the front so well. He's brilliant at it. He's absolute, and his energy levels are through the roof. And I'm glad that he got the goal tonight. He deserved it. You know, right place, right time. I'm just really, really happy for him because he deserves it. Like he's clearly a good kid. He's built himself back in, and I think he's really finding a home in this team. I absolutely think he's one of the first 11 week in, week out. I think he makes Joe Perreault a better striker. I think he makes Mateo Joseph a better striker as well. I think he improves both of their games. I love everything Brendan brings. He has to play for me. It's fit.
Agree. Update on Ramazani that's just come in. Twisted ankle. So he'll have to be assessed ahead of Bristol City. But
50-50 that's a 50-50. It's not the end of the world. 1 or 2 games out tops, which is okay.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah, because I think we all panicked a little bit when we saw him coming off, so that's good.
Before fans start having a meltdown and start blaming the medical department because they don't know what they're doing, you know, with all these impact injuries.
Yeah, exactly. Big conspiracy theories going around, exactly. Good stuff. Just before we wrap up, then a brief mention, a look ahead. It's Bristol City. Lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. Bristol City, were they in action tonight? What
drew 2-2, I think.
They drew 2-2, didn't they? Yeah.
They were 2-0 down.
Yeah, so the battle back there, and they're racking up the draws, aren't they? So far, they've had 6 draws already of Bristol. I mean, again, you know, we've talked about this run of games coming up. It's winnable games for Leeds. I mean, it should be 3 points again. Do you think he'll maybe decide? Obviously, there's going to be enforced changes, but I wonder if maybe Joseph will come back into it on Saturday.
Maybe it's a tough one because again, you might be looking at a situation where we only get 1 or 2 chances. You know, you don't know how fluid the attack's going to be, and again, do you want it to fall to Joseph or do you want it to fall to Perreault? Most of the time, you're going to want it to fall to Perreault. So, could do. I don't expect wholesale changes simply because of the squad size and the way that Farker is, and the fact that he's going to be enforced into at least 1, probably 2 changes. I think Ramazani twisted ankle. It'll be swollen for a couple of days. It'll probably be a bit tender. Maybe he's fit enough to make the bench. But I don't know if it's worth risking, to be honest, with the options that we've got. You know, regardless of your opinion of Solomon, he's more than an ample replacement for Ramazani in the Championship. So yeah. I won't be like desperately throwing him in. If like for example, if you were desperate to throw Rodon or striking with no centre back cover, that's a bit different. Yeah, you play one of them at 70%. You don't play Ramazani at 70% and risk further injuring him. So yeah, I think you'll probably see a resolute side. I think if Byram comes in on the left, I think you see probably as angle the attack more down the right. And it'll be a bit more funneled than it has been so far this season, a bit like it was last season when it was very much funneled down the left. I think you'll see it very much funneled down the right. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what he does do in the attacking position. Does he go Solomon? Does he go Nonto on the left and give James a start? I think he'll start Solomon. That'd be my gut instinct. I'm not saying that's what I think he should do, but I think that's what he will do.
Yeah, I agree. We're near the top of the table. We thought we were top of the table, actually. I'd seen a table where it showed Leeds being first.
We were at 2-0.
We're 2-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we've dropped to second. But we're in the top 2, Jason, for the first time this season. We know what that means. That means automatic promotion. Do we stay there?
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, of course we do. Look, you know, I think Watford really applied themselves second half. They created 1 chance, scored it. And apart from that, they created nothing else. Again, we see another game that goes by where the opposition creates basically nothing because of the way that we're controlling games. And today did at times feel a little bit out of control. They pushed us a little bit more than some teams have done this season. You know, we've beaten or played pretty much everything that this division has to offer, and nobody has outplayed us. We've not been second best in any game, with the exception of maybe the West Brom game, where I still think that was a pretty 50-50 game, and we set out to get a draw on the back of a bad cup result. So I think we've seen everything that this division has to offer. We can go to Bristol City with confidence. We should always expect to win. Every game, I think, this season we expect to win. And, you know, so we should. So we should. Yeah. This is our opportunity to build up a bit ahead of steam, build up a run of results. You know, we're 6 unbeaten now. You know, unfortunately, we didn't get another clean sheet tonight, but it didn't matter. And I think, yeah, Bristol City, they'll offer us what a lot of mid-table championship teams will, mate. You know, and on the day, most of the time, we'll still come out on top.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody who's been watching along and getting your comments in. Please do make sure you like the video if that's on Twitter or YouTube. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. There'll be plenty more content on the channel this week, so keep an eye out for that. I've been Stephen Brown. Joining me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.